I am not going to lie to you. I feel kind of off today. And most people with like a normally functioning nervous system would probably go, hey, maybe not the best time to record a podcast, putting pressure to produce something marvelous out there and sharing honest thoughts on life on the internet. But for me, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's the best time. Not sure. I can't quite put my finger on it. And so I kind of want to unpack a little bit of maybe some of the way that I'm feeling is because we're back from vacation. And it just got me on this thought process of like the vacation complex where you feel like a complete idiot for even remotely trying to share something negative about a trip or your experience after a trip, but you also feel like you went on an experience and you came back feeling not ideal. And I don't know, I feel like there's not a lot of space on the internet or anywhere in the world really anymore for people to have complex emotions. For example, I remember when Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, the royal family couple, got married. And then 2 or 3 years later, they had the whole Oprah interview where they were like leaving the royal family. And the reaction was so split from the public on how they should be perceived since they shared their honest, open thoughts. I remember personally being like, wow, like I'm so encouraged that they were brave enough to leave a situation that sounded like messy family dynamics and public pressure. And given the history with like Harry's mother, Diana, dying in a car accident that we still are not sure if it was like somewhat staged or directed or if it was just the paparazzi chasing them. I was like, wow, I'm proud of them for getting out of the situation and trying to go live and take ownership of their own lives. But then you hop on the internet and everyone's like, oh, wow, they're prince and princess of a country, like the most privileged seat in the whole world. And they just leave. Like, I'm calling bull. Like, they're handed everything on a silver platter and then they just have something to complain about. Like, that's garbage. I hate them. So anyway, I just think of that as such an interesting example of like, no, we cannot take everything at face value. But also, I think we've lost a lot of empathy, even for those who are in a different position than us, even for those who are in a place of privilege or wealth or whatever. I'm not trying to, cause a whole spiel. I'm not trying to defend the ultra rich. But another example that comes to mind is recently Jeff Bezos got married and people were like fuming on the internet about how dare he, rent out Venice, Italy as a billionaire's playground and invite all these celebrities. How dare he take all this money away from yada, yada, spend it on this lavish celebration. I shouldn't have done this, but I did it anyway. I just saw one person make a comic book about it, like a little internet comic about how insane it was to spend that kind of money. I think it was like $55 million on a wedding. He rented out all of Venice, Italy. He invited like his close personal friends, the Kardashians, Sydney Sweeney, Leonardo DiCaprio, like all this stuff. And I just made a comment because they were just bashing him so much that I was like, hey, just keep in mind, like as a wedding vendor, that $55 million most likely didn't go to the billionaires. That went to local venues, vendors. Probably some of those people were Italians, people who cooked, who cleaned, who set up tables and chairs, who did the security, who did private planes and all this stuff, like who made the food, who ushered in certain celebrities, the boat drivers, the cab drivers, the wedding planners, the photographers. Those are all humans that got paid that amount of money trickled down. Does that make sense? Like some of it was lavish, outlandish stuff that was just for funsies, but like people still got paid. That money helped those people's lives and their businesses, and the local area of Venice probably, from my understanding, when you rent out a city, that money is going to the city, and then the city can use that money to upkeep the canals and the businesses and the buildings. So I just kind of commented that, and the internet hated it. And I got thousands, what maybe it was hundreds, but what felt like thousands of responses, and people saying that I was defending the rich, that, you know, I was sucking on the teat of Jeff Bezos. I was like, what? Like, I don't know this man from a hole in the ground. I'm not condoning his actions or celebrating his second or third marriage. All I'm saying is that everybody wants to be in that place of wealth and privilege. And then when someone actually is, and they use their money to just celebrate their love and pay people correctly, if not, they probably got a lot of price tags that were jacked up. So they pay people more than their average person would pay them. I was just pointing out the obvious of like, hey, that money is probably helping a lot of people's lives, and you're sitting here acting like it was only all bad. How dare a rich person get married? Anyway, why am I rambling? I'm going to jump into the episode and we'll talk more about the vacation complex. No, I'm not even sure if the vacation complex is an actual thing. I think it's just a phrase that I thought would be cool to name this episode. So maybe there's a real definition for it. But as you know, we just came back from a trip. I will share the entire experience like in real time as vlog episodes so you guys can kind of follow along each location. So go to my channel and watch those if you haven't already. There's going to be one for Ireland, one for Italy, and one for Morocco. So you can really like be right there with us and see what we saw and follow along step by step in these trips. So yeah, you'll kind of hear more about that story there. But the quick rundown is that Ian and his family have a really close family member friend who was getting married in Berlin, Germany, and invited the entire family. And unfortunately, we had weddings that we had already booked here in the States, so we weren't able to make that wedding. But his family, parents, siblings, nieces, and nephews were all like, we're going to go. And then you guys just meet us in Europe when you can. So they went to the Berlin, Germany wedding, and then they went to Italy, and we met them in Italy. So we hung out in Italy for a few days, and then there was another wedding that they were all invited to in Morocco. We didn't know this person, so we didn't get the invite, which is totally fine, but that's why our whole family then went to Morocco together for 5 days, and then our last leg of the trip was to go to Ireland, and then we flew home. That's kind of the overview. It was all a family vacation. And that's kind of why it was specifically those countries. Ian's parents were the like captains of the ship, and they really wanted to see those countries as well as having the 2 weddings to go to. So we were like, hey, this is your trip. This is your thing. I think they just celebrated their like 33rd or 34th wedding anniversary recently. And it's really hard to get, you know, all the family members' schedules to line up. So they're like, we're going to do this as a big family thing, and we want to, you know, go to these countries. So that's kind of the overview. So it was really fun. It was very like restful at times, but also me and Ian, the way we like to travel is like, we're not just sipping pina coladas on the beach, guys. Like, we are going to hike. We're going to go to a museum. We're going to walk around. We're going to try to learn the local language and order something unique. And we're going to try new things. And we're going to ride horses in the middle of the desert. So we like to have some lazy days on vacations too, but we also like to do what you can't do back at home, right? So that was kind of our take on things while it was still like a family thing. So we spent a lot of time with the parents and the nieces and nephews, kind of doing some things, went to the beach in Morocco. We went to a nice winery in Italy with Ian's parents. So it was really fun in that regard. Now, again, I gave those examples at the start of this episode about Jeff Bezos and Harry and Meghan to kind of say, I know what I'm going to sound like. And I'm just asking for you to have some grace, because I don't want to post this being vulnerable and sharing my thoughts about this trip and then open the comments and see everyone go, wow, white privileged girl is going to complain about vacation. Like, no, like, I mean, you can comment whatever. I'm ready for it. You can't hurt me. But I know what it's going to sound like, but I do still have my own experience. And I think that that is valid. In the same way that like Taylor Swift after, doing a live performance at 148 performances around the world on her Global Eras tour, I think she's allowed to say, hey, I'm a little tired. I want to take a nap. You know what I mean? I think people are entitled to their own feeling because they're the only person that like lives a certain experience. So for me, the trip was great. There's things we would have done differently. Obviously, if it was me and Ian, we would have probably like spent a little more time in certain places or done a little more of a specific excursion, but overall, really fun time. But coming home and then instantly being inundated with back to work, full inbox, people asking questions on where we went, what was the itinerary, what clothes did we wear, why did we go, and feeling that social responsibility of like not wanting to ignore them and then being like, yeah, let me share it all, but I'm not an international trip planner and I'm not, working for any of these brands and I thrift my clothes, but here's one or two that you could buy. And then coupled with just like, boop, you're back to normal life. Boop, there's the rundown gas station next to where you live. And there's the same Kroger that you go to. And by the way, inflation and now your water bill's higher and also your property taxes went up and you have to drive 30 minutes just to see your friends. And also no one's free because they're all busy now. And someone else is pregnant and also someone else just had a baby. And don't you want to donate to this cause? And also there's a war going on. Don't you care? What's your statement? Like, again, I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer. I just had a really fun, 14-day trip to Europe and North Africa. But at the same time, it's like almost worse to leave and have a beautiful experience and then come home and be reminded and kind of like full of grief that like this is the life that you have. Now, before I go any further on sounding like I'm complaining, I also have the like a dual thought from coming home. We met so many people in Morocco. And once you started a conversation with them and they found out we were from the States, they were like, it's my dream to go to America. I wish I could go to America. I would love to go to America. Like, if I'm ever in the States, would you let me know, like if I could stay with you or could I visit you or whatever? So many people in Italy, the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, I would love to go to New York City. Oh, that's crazy. You guys have been to LA. That's amazing. Like, what's California like? And it's just it's so beautiful. And it makes me really like grateful to be in America. And even though things are insane right now, so many people it is their dream to have freedom. And like, even though there's a lot of things in America that I think are not freedom, it's just it's a weird thing. Does anyone get this? Like, I'm running the risk of sounding so like one of one right now if no one knows what it's like. Like, I hope someone has traveled and understands what I'm saying. But yeah, it's like a very interesting perspective of being both, wow, I'm so grateful for the fact that I live in this country and that I can go to college and I went to college and I can choose my career and then pivot and switch my career and change my mind if I want to. I can have a say somewhat in the government. I can vote. I can protest. I can have free speech. I have more opportunities and more niche opportunities. There are not a lot of people who live in Morocco, I would assume, who do graphic design and photography for a living. Probably not a big career. We met some people in Morocco who, these young men were waiters at our table and they were athletes and wanted to be a soccer coach in the States. Like, that's this guy's dream, is to come over here and be a soccer coach. And those are things that like you can probably do there, but I don't think you'd make a lot of money. I don't think that's like an actual like job or career you could have. Whereas here, you could definitely get into soccer coaching and working as a trainer and all this stuff. So on one hand, I was like, wow, I'm really grateful to be back and have AC and ice in my drinks and water and public restrooms that are usually free. But I'm also kind of grieving like the way that our culture has muddied and shifted its priorities so much that when you're there and you're in different cultures and you're like, oh, people, start work around 10 a.m., maybe they'll take their afternoon siesta between 4 and 6. They'll come back and do a little work if they need to. but then they'll have a 3-hour meal. They'll have their babies strapped to them. We were eating at an Italian restaurant, babies, little infants strapped to these mommies' chests at 11 p.m. out in the middle of a street in Italy. At the bar with the people walking around Morocco at 10:30, there's little tiny kids, whole families hanging out outside together. That stuff does not happen here. It just does not. Like the work-life balance here is almost non-existent. Like I was explaining it to someone today. I think the way that our culture in America prioritizes life is if it's a pyramid, this bottom foundation is work. It's the first thing you do. What's your job? What's your career? How much do you make? That'll determine where you live, who your friends are. Work is the first pillar in American society, I think. And work ties very closely with the rest of it, like social status and the neighborhood you live in and the school your kids go to. But work is the big thing on the bottom of the pyramid. And then you'll trickle upward, and maybe at the tippity top will be something like mental well-being. But it's definitely not the heart and like where we start things. From my understanding, as someone who's traveled to Europe a handful of times, if I had to guess, that bottom part of the pyramid tends to be community. It feels like the heart and soul of what they value in life and what they structure their lives around is community and social well-being. I might be wrong. Maybe someone in Europe can comment and let me know if I'm wrong. But it seems like before work, before other responsibilities, before income or what school your kids go to, like what is that? Before any of those things, it's like, no, we want to make sure we enjoy our lives. So work is the accent to our life, not the definition of our life. And whether you're a farmer or a small shop owner, whether you are, a creative struggling to make ends meet there, I guess, like, I don't know, whether you're a doctor, whatever, it seems like that's the structure, is that we live in walkable areas where you can walk to the doctor, you can walk to the pharmacy, you can walk to get groceries, you walk to see your best friends, your family lives close by, your babies, your family, your young kids are all a part of your daily life. And that work is not the thing that the world revolves around, but rather like your wellness overall. And I think coming home and just being instantly inundated with like emails and expectations and deadlines, I just felt that like big grief wave. And I think that's what I'm kind of dealing with, is just being like, I'm sad that our culture is so hustle, go. How many things can you book? How much can you produce? How many of these events do you want to be a part of? How much money are you making? And how much can you donate? And how much can you give? And also with your time, could we have more of it? But also like, I need to give my time to friends, but also my friends are just as equally feeling that capitalistic yank and pull. And so they're busy and they're booked and they're traveling and they can't see me on a weeknight. And then all we have is the weekend, and that's when I work. And yeah. Is any of this making sense? Or do I sound like I'm just complaining about having like a really fun trip? I guess what I'm just saying is like, the culture, I think, really defines, the culture that you're a part of really defines and impacts how you live your life. As much as we want to say like, I don't care what the world's doing, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care what they're saying, I'm going to do it. We can say that all we want, and you can be countercultural in a lot of ways. However, we are all products of the environments that we're around. And so if you live in Morocco and you're used to living a simple life where things don't cost that much, and you're used to, taking an afternoon siesta and, collecting your income when you can and visiting your sick relative and then going to the beach and then eating out together as a family at 10 p.m., then there'll be more of the same, because that's what the culture does together. That's what's normal. And here, if I brought that mentality back and said, you know what, I'm done living in this house. I'm just going to live in a tiny little flat in a little part of town, just like they do in Morocco. And I'm just going to eat whatever I can, grab from my local vendors, and it's going to be fresh produce, and I'm going to make mint tea and tagine, which is so good, by the way. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to bother about dressing a certain way. I'm just going to wear my sandals and, my long flowy skirts, and I'm not going to worry about labels or putting on makeup or smartphones or TikTok. That's what I'm going to do. If I came back with that mentality, I would be literally like flat on my face without the ability to have my job anymore, because our culture is not ready for that. Neither is like the system of economics. I literally would be in an impoverished neighborhood. I wouldn't be able to be a wedding photographer, because things like what you wear, what you look like, if you use social media, how you market, all that matters and plays very largely into my work and my livelihood. There are other careers probably where I could come back with that mentality and go, you know what? I'm just going to be not a monk. I'm a woman. I'm going to go be a nun. I'm just going to give it all up. I'm going to, wear the same clothes every day. I'm just going to go be a nun. But then again, I can't because I'm married. I'm giving bad examples, but I'm just trying to say that like the culture that we're in really has such a grip on how we live our lives. And there is this standard that in other countries, they also have a standard of living, right? But it does feel so, I guess, just jarring when you come home and try to say like, wow, I really want to implement a slower pace of life, where we eat good food, where the burden of the cost of healthcare is not on my shoulders anymore. I want to work a job that doesn't rule me. I want to set my own hours and flexibility with my schedule. I want to be able to take a mental health day. I want to be able to say no to a project if I don't want to do it. I want to be able to show up and be fully present and not be distracted. And I just want to live like a slow, simple life where we have a good time and we have kids and we explore nature and we visit historical monuments and we cherish our faith and we love our neighbors. Like that's what I would like to do. And there's so many things in that I can do as someone who lives in the States, and I do. I'm not really complaining. I'm just pointing out for the mental exercise. But there are still so many pieces of that like, to me, it all flows together. For example, I feel like I can't take less work because the cost of living is so high now, even in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio. Like we are not living in a wealthy district. We're actually in a very, pretty low ranking school district. There's, we're pretty medium on the crime area in the neighborhood we live in. I feel pretty safe, but it's one of those things where like, oh, okay, like was that a gunshot or a car backfiring? That happens like every day. The school rating I think we're next to is like a 3.4 out of 10 stars. People are like, don't send your kids to school here. But anyway, I feel like because the cost of living is so high, the cost of something like health insurance, going to the gym or any kind of healthy lifestyle thing, the cost of eating organically, just buying groceries, even if I'm cooking at home, just buying normal organic groceries or not even organic, I was at Walmart last night and I was like, I just want some fresh fruit. I never shop at Walmart, but it was the only thing on the side of town I was in. I just wanted some fresh fruit. Raspberries were over $5 for non-organic berries. You know what I mean? So depending on the part of the country or, world you live in, that might be low. But to me, I was like, excuse me? Like, a tiny little thing of, anyway, what I'm saying is that I feel like I can't implement the actual kind of life and lifestyle that I want to because it's so hard to just stay afloat that you feel like you can't say no to projects. You feel like you can't say no to work because you need that income literally just to pay the bills. Both Ian and I are in this position where everything coming through the door right now, we're pretty much saying yes to. I have said no to a few things, but it's purely because of my own capacity and my schedule. I'm looking around going like, I cannot book anything else or I'm going to go insane. But at the same time, if I don't book something, how are we going to pay our mortgage next month? How are we going to pay the gas bill? Like, are we going to have to start saying, no, we can't go to church events that are not Sunday morning because we're on a budget and we can't pay, $30, $40 a month on filling up on gas. It's getting to just that weird place of like just feeling torn in two worlds. Yeah. And I can't complain. I keep saying I can't complain. I'm allowed to complain. It's my podcast. Can I complain? Am I allowed to talk about my own feelings on my own show? But on the other hand, like, I'm so grateful and I'm in a great position of like, I am working for myself. I do set my own schedule. I can say no to projects. I can say yes to projects. And I have so many incredible couples that I'm working with, so many people that are hiring me to capture their wedding moments. And it's just an honor. And we're not at the place where we're like sinking, but it feels like even though I work for myself, to avoid the rat race of being a corporate girl boss, there's still the rat race of just trying to find your purpose in life, work in a way that is sustainable to you, but also that, you live. Yeah. So it's just a weird place to be. It's a weird place to be. And I didn't expect to come back from vacation feeling like this. I was like, every time we travel, I come back with this newfound sense of gratitude and my perspective has shifted and we meet all these new people and it's beautiful. And all that did happen. But everyone that I've seen since we came back who said like, how was your trip? I have nothing to say because it's too much. It's like too much to say. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. We saw a bunch of awesome things. My head is still swimming with memories and I'm still kind of in shock that I'm back home on my couch, my thrifted couch torn up by the cats in my neighborhood, 30 minutes away from all my friends, 30 minutes away from family, 30 minutes away from our church. And the thought of moving closer to those things is out of the question because you can't afford anything. And the thought of relocating to a new state altogether is something we're dreaming of, talking about, praying about, and is also going to have to be an act of the Lord because it's going to be twice, if not 3 times as expensive just to relocate to a place to get more opportunities. So, yeah, I don't know. Am I just like complaining? I guess I am, and that's okay. It's fine. I guess what I'm trying to say is that like when you experience something or at least observe something, which is what I love to do when I travel, I love to observe other people, look at them all doing their lives and knowing that like there is a God that loves them and that sees them and that cares for them. And this whole planet is huge and full of beautiful people made in his image. And we're all specks of dust. And I think it's really beautiful. And so I'm seeing them all doing their thing. And I'm like, wow, like if they can find their joy and happiness kicking a dusty soccer ball around a field in Morocco, why am I complaining at home? Capturing beautiful weddings and getting to travel so often for work. Like these are things that young India would have like never in a million years thought was going to happen. And yet I'm finding myself like conflicted because we live in such an assimilate or die culture where even if I want to be countercultural and do something against the grain, there are just real restrictions and real realities about how you live your life, how you're supposed to work with money, how you're supposed to run a business, how you're supposed to, function and what you're supposed to look like. And are you in, are you out? Are you this, are you that? Are you a part of this faith or this culture or this people group or your family? I don't know. Lots of big thoughts and feelings today. I guess, yeah, all of that just kind of is on my brain. So I wanted to share it. Those vlogs will be coming out soon. I hope you watch them all. It was really fun to kind of document in a different way than we ever have before on a trip. We tried not to like overwhelm ourselves and be in the moment as much as possible, but I think we did a good job with it. But there are a lot of little behind the scenes and I tried to kind of bring you along for the ride. So enjoy our travel vlog era as that starts. Before we wrap up though, I do want to, not bring the mood's so down. I need to talk about something fun. So I thought, even though I've only been back for like a week and a day, things that I'm into since returning from Europe and Africa, which is still so strange that Morocco's in Africa, like in my brain. I feel like Morocco's in the Middle East, but I guess technically it's Northern Africa. So yeah. Okay. Since coming back, here's some things that I've been into. Not working. Shocker. I really struggle with this. My motivation in the summertime to open my laptop and stare at it for 8 hours, 0. I hate it. Like that is not something I like doing. So my motivation since coming back on vacation has also been 0. Yay. But we're trying to get better at it. Pilates. I went to a trial Pilates class last week as soon as I came back, like signed up right away. I'm ready to do it. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and be a Pilates princess. I really want to take health into my own hands. And that's another thing that kind of traveling really opened our eyes to, is how other cultures really are just up and moving all day long. Like they're on their feet, they're walking around. That is not something you do once in a while. We're so used to just hopping in the car and driving anywhere that the actual get up and go-ness, that I really remember feeling so strongly in college. I was like, wow, like I'm out and about every single day. I'm putting on shoes and going to a class. I'm walking around town. I'm seeing people. I'm seeing my friends. I'm seeing my community. The walkability aspect of it not only kept me in shape, but also kept me mentally like well and healthy. Seeing people every single day, having to put on clothes and everything. I guess to a degree, like that's what happens when you have a normal job. But I think since COVID, and most jobs are either fully remote still or hybrid, where they only do a couple days in person and the rest online. Almost every single person I know who does not work for themselves has one of those jobs, either fully remote or hybrid. And I've sensed that like shift in myself of missing. That's the biggest thing I probably miss about working for someone else, is just seeing other people. But I ask my other friends too, like you guys have jobs where you're hybrid and you're on Zoom and you're working from your, coffee shop or your couch all day. Like, how are you feeling? And they're feeling that same, like, well, I don't get my social needs met really throughout the day. And also I don't feel like I'm moving my body and working out and keeping up with myself. And so everyone else is in that boat of, I either need to pay to go to a gym or sign up for a class, or I need to like be diligent every single day to get up and get moving. And I, for one, need the class environment. So I'm into Pilates right now. I did one test class and I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do 2 classes a week. And I think paying the amount that I have to pay for this class membership thing will like keep me going, because it is expensive and that sucks. But I want to be healthy, and I want to be the 90-year-old grandma who's walking around Italy getting her tomatoes at 11 p.m. and, not think twice about it. I don't want to get older and then be like, oh shoot, I should have taken my health seriously and ate better and worked out more. I want to do that now. Okay. Other things. I started the series, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. What a chaotic trash TV show. But of course I'm invested. I'm on season 2. I have many thoughts and I will let you know what I think when I finish it all, but holy guacamole. I'm currently reading the book, The Guest List. It's based in Ireland. There's a fancy high profile wedding going on, and it's kind of, each chapter jumps around different perspectives of the people who are involved in the wedding. It's like wedding planner, bridesmaid, the groom, the bride, the mother, all that stuff. And I think it's a murder mystery. I haven't gotten that far into it, but I'm a few chapters in. And so far, I think it's just a fun little read that I'm excited to get through this summer. I took it on vacation and read like 3 chapters on a plane. So now we're actually getting back into it. Also, speaking of books, I am listening to the audiobook series, the Fourth Wing series, and I'm on the second book, Iron Flame. I'll let you know what I think about it, but the first book was surprisingly good. I really enjoyed it overall. I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous episode, but I think I was like caught off guard by the spiciness. It felt super out of place. I'm also criticizing so the book is set in like I think it's supposed to be modern times, but like a medieval setting of like a fantasy world where there's daggers and dragons and you go to dragon riding college and you pick your little major. And there's kingdoms and there's people and mythical creatures that attack the kingdoms, right? So to me, if I had to guess, if I was running a kingdom knowing that we were going to be attacked and I'm sending my kids to college to become part of the army to defend our town, I would want them to stay alive so that they can defend our town, because the numbers would matter a lot to me. If I'm building an army, I don't need 10 people who are really smart to be in the army. I need 10,000 people at any level to at least help defend with the numbers. You know what I mean? In this series, at least in the first one, they just treated death like nothing. Like it was just so commonplace that all these kids, I think it was like 300 kids, go to dragon riding college. And within the first couple of pages, like someone falls off this thing, someone, gets shoved off a cliff, someone else is trying to kill someone while they're combat training. There's no repercussions, by the way. Someone falls off their dragon, someone else gets smited by a dragon. I was like, if you're building an army, again, skill set should not matter. Like, you would keep your kid alive. Anyway, the way that the author just kind of flippantly writes, oh, and then they died. Oh, and there's another death. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, overall, I will say I was surprised. I'm not a fantasy book girly, but I was like pretty into the plot. So we'll see what the second book brings. Okay, I'm also into fancy ramen. I had some last night. The Shin ramen brand. It's like black and red packaging. It's Shin. And put a little peanut butter in there, little miso paste. I put a little coconut milk. I put a little hot sauce, lime juice. I put some green onions in there. What else I put in there? I put the little flavor packs. Usually I would put some cilantro and some corn if we had that, but we did not. I put a little sprinkle of sugar. I've heard maple syrup or honey's good, but it balances that flavor really well. Chef's kiss, you guys. Oh, an egg. I always put an egg in there for protein. It was a delicious bowl of comfort. That was my dinner last night. I'm also into making mocktails. My friend gave me some lavender magnesium powder. It tastes delicious and it looks like purple Gatorade. I drank the whole thing. And I also had a delicious spiced brown sugar latte with oat milk from a little cafe called Stella's in Loudonville, Ohio. So if you ever find yourself out in the Mohican Adventures area and you want a little coffee break, go to Stella's, because that was a delicious latte. And I'm very sad that the ice melted before I got to drink it all. Yay. Okay, what a weird episode. It's fine. It's my life. It's always weird. Thanks for listening as always. Tune into the travel vlogs. Let me know if you have the same vacation complex feelings. If coming back and seeing, dusty highways and rundown McDonald's, really just makes you feel thriving after a European summer, but we really can't complain. We have so much to be grateful for. I'm also nervous about the wars going on in the world. So maybe, I don't know, complex feelings are just going to be part of our lives from here on out. Thanks for listening. As always, this is the podcast with all the stuff. Thanks for tuning in to India and Stuff. Bye. That was like jazz hands. That was weird.